Like when you start training at a place like this, we're connected to some local indies. And once you're ready to have matches, we can help you get booked in at least some local indies and probably some regional indies, because there are people in this room who work for these promotions at the very least, maybe even some of these. But does anybody know what the local indies are around here? You're not mic'd, but okay.
It's ESW in Nickel City.
So the two local indies around here are Nickel City, they run in Buffalo, and ESW that runs mainly in like Niagara County. So these local indies that you get booked on, you know, we know the promoters, we know, a lot of us work there, like everybody in this room works for one or both. And once you start working there, they're probably gonna hand you some tickets to sell the tickets directly to your friends and family. And then, so it's very likely that, this could be a promotion, either of these promotions could be a promotion where you have your first matches at. Maybe in some of these too. I would say like these regional indies, and these are particular to your area, right? These regional indies are like, you need to get in a car and drive like an hour or two or more to get to these. And some of those to us are STW, which I don't know when their next show is, but STW. In Erie, Pennsylvania, there's Revenge and PWR. In Rochester, there's UPW. In Syracuse, there's Wild Zero. In Binghamton, there's Excite. In Fort Erie, just over the border, there's Border Town. There's, to name just one, Southern Ontario indie. There's Barrie, that some people here work. And there's just dozens of promotions in Southern Ontario. Like, I think on any given weekend, there's a lot of wrestlers who are wrestling like 3 times almost every weekend, just because Southern Ontario has so many promotions. And then it's not too hard to get booked in these promotions, but like these promotions here in the black, I think are especially looking for special talent and talent that will help them sell a video service. So like, I think up to now, these promotions here are looking to mainly sell tickets. And in the case of like local indies, they want you, the worker, to actually sell the tickets, some of them at least, to your friends and family. And so ESW, I think, is trying to become one of these because they're starting to really do a video product. They're starting to do some streaming, right? So these promotions from here up are getting more into video streaming, which I'll try to scroll in here. And these promotions here are promotions that more and more people around the world and on the internet care about. So these promotions are not just in the US, but here's RevPro in the UK, ICW in Scotland, Beyond Wrestling in the New England area, AIW in Cleveland, that's only 3 hours away, Shine is a women's promotion that's associated with Evolve, which we'll talk about in a minute, AAW in Chicago, CZW in New Jersey, Smash Wrestling in Toronto, which a lot of wrestlers from Grapplers have wrestled at, Defy in Seattle, Nova in Virginia, Fest I think is in Florida, WWR and WSU are women's promotions that are run by, I think Beyond runs that one and CZW runs that one. Game Changer in somewhere on the East Coast, Limitless, which we wrestled for recently in Maine. They only run in Maine, right? Or they run another state? IWC in Pittsburgh, Bar Wrestling in California, Chikara, PWX in North Carolina, and there's something called SCW that Brickster knows people there. I kind of know somebody there in like Tennessee. So there's way more promotions that we could leave in here. And if other people saw this, they're going to get offended because I didn't include them in this list of promotions. But there's a lot of promotions that we can name here. This is not a complete and exhaustive list of everybody who's trying to do something with streaming as far as like make money with a video product, whether that's their own through Pivot Share or they're trying to do something with like a Powerbomb.tv or whatever. And then there's some promotions which like, I think once you start to get booked in these promotions, you start to get maybe these promotions to care about you. So that's PWG, which is in California, Evolve, which is run by Gabe Sapolsky, and they run all over the place, Progress in the UK, which has, and these two promotions have like an informal relationship with WWE. And so does WXW in Germany, and so does IWC in Scotland, and then Shimmer is, I think, has kind of a relationship with WWE as well. And again, they're associated with Evolve because they're all part of this WN family of promotions. So a lot of these promotions, I think once you start to get booked in these promotions, then maybe these promotions, especially like WWE, New Japan, Ring of Honor, and this new thing called AEW, and maybe even Impact and MLW will start to care about you, and especially these promotions are signing people to contracts. And there's more people being signed to contracts today than at any time that I've been around in wrestling. Like WWE, when I started wrestling, had a smaller roster than it does now. It's got this big roster. They're trying to build all these brands, including NXT and 205 Live. Triple H talks about this vision that he has of global localization, where he wants to put like little NXTs and little performance centers eventually all over the world. So I think WWE is going to have just an ever-growing roster. Somebody was asking me the other day about like, I think they're going to have to, they have too many wrestlers. They're going to start releasing people soon. I was like, fuck no. WWE is not going to release anybody because they don't want to leave this talent open for these other promotions to get. So, yeah, I think once you start to get booked in these promotions, you really get to, this is like, you're probably going to be able to make a living if you start to work for these promotions. I just want to add, yeah, these people do streaming, but these people have TV, and that's where the huge chunks of money come from. That's why like WWE has so much damn money, is because they have massive TV rights. They're not just streaming with the network, they're not just selling tickets, which is barely even profitable for them anymore, but they have giant TV rights. And ROH is owned by a TV company. New Japan has TV sort of in the US and also in Japan. AEW is trying to get TV, and these two have a TV network that's in like some homes. But I just wanted to explain that like there's a ladder here, and I feel like this is not necessarily you have to go through each step of the ladder to get to here. If you want to work for WWE, which a lot of people want to work for WWE, you don't necessarily have to go through every rung on the ladder to get there. There are people who, you know, if you know the right person or you have the right background, you can work a local indie and then get a W tryout just because you have something that they care about. Maybe you've done acting or something, or you have a certain look, you've demonstrated a certain personality, you can bang, you just end up in the performance center, you get a tryout, and maybe they want to hire you. But more and more wrestlers than at any time in the past are going through this path. They start at the local indie level, they start to get in cars and travel, they do well enough here that they get an opportunity here, and they start getting spread around to these super indie type promotions. Then they do well enough here, then these very influential super indie promotions start to book them, and then they start to get looked at for contracts, and then they end up making a living in pro wrestling because maybe they get in here at a low level, and then they work their way up the card to a higher level and become long-time, famous, big-time pro wrestlers. That's the gist of it, I think.
Do you feel like there's a certain style that you have to work to get to certain levels, or do you feel like it's kind of one of those things where you can just do what you do and then hopefully the right person sees it and then you eventually it'll, you know, the cream rises to the top, as they say?
I think more than ever, WWE is more willing and accepting to hire all different kinds of wrestlers. I feel like they would have that's kind of their stock answer, but there's truth to that. Like, I think like when Brody was here, he said they want you, they need a variety of wrestlers with a variety of backgrounds, a variety of styles, especially when they want to do all this global localization, when they want to put little performance centers and little NXTs on every continent. They want all different kinds of people from all different backgrounds, and I think they don't even know in these certain areas like what's going to connect when they go to South America. I don't know what's going to connect when they go to Asia, or they set up a performance center in India. I don't think they even have an answer if it started to answer the question of like different cultures are going to want different things. But I don't think there's it's not just like, oh, they want high flying wrestlers. They don't just want, they want them, but they want big guys who can do amazing things too. And they want personalities, and they want, good women wrestlers, and they want good male wrestlers, and they want big guys and small guys and anything that gets over. Like, I think that's the one thing I've really tried to teach, is that I don't care what you choose to do, just as long as it connects with a given audience. And these audiences, I think the further up you go, especially in these audiences and in the NXT audience, these audiences are like, they're more informed. You can do subtle things that more people will get. And like we wrestle maybe a more basic style, a more traditional style like a more heel face style without having a high expectation that, oh, we're going to do some really subtle stuff or really smart stuff that people are going to get. They might not get our really smart Japanese-inspired match down here, but as we try to work our way up here, that becomes more valuable if we can do subtle, complicated, deep wrestling matches or promos or whatever, if that makes sense.
What's the importance of really good gear and really good social media and all that stuff in branching out into those promotions?
You're gonna ask somebody who just only got into getting good gear, but I think it's one thing among a lot of other things that's really important. I mean, there's exceptions, of course. Like if you're just so awesome in some other area, you cannot have good gear and not be on social media. You can be Timothy Thatcher because you've made a connection in some other way because he's such a respected technical wrestler and he got over one way or another. But I think it would behoove you to try to be excellent in every facet, which is what? Have a personality. I don't know if you can manufacture that, but work on your promos, work on your look, have good gear, have well-designed gear. Talk to Carl if you need to. Have well-designed gear. It's expensive, but save your money, work hard, do well on social media, and like what? I feel like I should ask you though, like what's something that people can do to do better and to get more over on social media? You have more Instagram followers than I do, so.
I like to set reminders for myself for certain times, post this picture, and I'll save the draft of a picture. But if it's not a good time to post it, I won't post it. I'll wait till 7 o'clock on a Friday or something like that. It's a good time to post it, and I try to post stuff on not necessarily a photo on my Instagram every day, but something on my story every day.
Yeah, you're big on the story, not the feed. The feed is the museum.
Exactly. The feed. When I want people to scroll through my feed, I want them to see the hits. I want them to see that's my greatest hits, my feed. But then my story is just kind of anything that I think is cool.
And what about Twitter? So that's Instagram. We just kind of talked about. Well, how is Twitter different from Instagram? Let's say.
I think Instagram is more kind of about perception and what. If I post a picture of me in the ring and it looks really cool, then people will like that. But on Twitter, people are more likely to follow you if you can come up with witty commentary on current events in wrestling, basically, or past events in wrestling. I just tweeted something about WrestleMania 17, and a bunch of people liked it. I tweeted about the Necro Butcher, and a bunch of people liked it. So I think if you can connect with, especially if it's something that a lot of people feel not a lot of people know about, almost a hidden gem where they think that it's a niche type thing, if that makes sense, then they're more likely to like it. They're oh, I agree with this person about something that not a lot of people know about, so I'm gonna like it.
I feel like these promotions, it's really important. It's more important. Facebook's more important for these. Would you agree? Would anybody agree with that? And then once we get up here, that's where those two become more important. Not that you can't do them all the time. I'm not encouraging people to spend more time on social media, but if you want to get over, I guess this is part of it. Don't you think this is more important to post the flyer and post the promos because you actually are Facebook friends with the friends and family that you're going to sell the tickets to, or that, or you're actually going to meet in person on a regular basis at the shows? Does anybody have anything to add to that?
I think it's a lot easier to connect with fans in that aspect of Facebook than necessarily the friend. So they can interact with you on a more personal level. Sometimes it's a detriment, admittedly, because some fans get a little out of pocket, but it's just one of those things where it's more personal, I think. Because Instagram's kind of you have fans all over the world liking it and stuff like that. Whereas like you said, the local level, a lot of fans can interact with you on a more personal level, and they can get to know you as a person as opposed to a wrestler, and it makes you, I guess, sometimes like you more as a wrestler because they like you as a person, I guess, too.
Right. I feel like this is just more people you might know personally, obviously, and this is strangers.
Yeah, pretty much.
Not that there aren't strangers here, too. Do you have something, Nolan, before?
Yeah, I asked this question to a lot of people, but I figured it might be good for the video.
what are things that people can do outside of wrestling that will help them with their wrestling career?
Besides steroids.
Yes, sure. Like I asked Simon Grimm when he was at ESW, and he said language plays a big role into that. And I know you said that when we were at NXT, that Hornet has ties with, was it this? He does something with language for.
I think he
Saudi
like knows
Arabia.
languages other than English.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge deal to them. Like if you know a language other than English, that's you stand out besides everybody else who just only knows English, and they want. I think they're going to increasingly become a more international business. Again, like I said, they want to start putting developmental centers all over the world. So it's really valuable to them, to WWE, that you have other languages. I mean, like somebody like Cesaro, who's like whatever, he speaks like 5 languages or something like that. That's a huge deal to them. Not just that he's a great wrestler, but that they can send him to Germany or whatever, and he can go do press there because he can speak that language. Yeah, that's a huge deal to them.
Do you have any other examples besides language?
That you can do outside of wrestling?
Yeah, that would help your wrestling resume anyway? Would acting, or like an acting class or something help?
I think so, yeah. Get on a reality show like Brickster. I don't know. Be really tall. Get in shape, obviously.
Improv classes, like taking like improvisation classes for promos, I think really helps. Help me.
I believe it. Did you do that?
I did a couple. Yeah.
Really?
It helped with like my promos and like being spontaneous,
Really?
and like interacting in the ring with another person.
Very cool.
Just a tad.
Yeah. I wish we could do like an infograph, and we'll get like Carl to make this into a ladder or something. But yeah, just these are. I think a lot of people walk into here to train and they don't understand the depth of this and the that these are steps. This is basically the path. This is the most common path, I think, going forward for people, especially people who are starting here. This is where you're starting, and then these are the steps if you want to make it to WWE or something else. Yeah, it's as I told you guys on our Facebook group like a week ago. There has never been a better time to be a wrestler than right now, because there are so many of these companies that have TV who are trying to sign people to at least partially exclusive contracts, and it's never been like this before. And I think it's only a matter of time before the people who work hard here are going to end up getting signed, and that'll be a big deal.